So, why all the emotions? So many emotions create so much turbulence within us. Why? Why and what to do with them? So let's look at it together. I invite you to consider that there are emotions that we perceive positive, emotions that we perceive negative. And the negative emotions I invite you to consider to be just a transition to your next positive emotion. It's very simple, right? In the world of awareness, consciousness, the space in us with beyond the illusion of this tangible reality. Emotions, just movement of energy. It's just movement of energy. There is no quality to it. There is no quality such as positive emotion and negative emotion. But yet there is a perceiver in us that separates and discriminates. This is negative emotion, this is positive emotion, this is pleasant to me, the sense of me comes in, and this is unpleasant, right? This is useful and this is unproductive emotion. So because we perceive it such, we try to escape at all cost emotions that are unpleasant. You know that. That's simple, right? But what if you look at it, and it's a concept really in that sense, but it's useful, helpful concept. Negative emotion is just a transition emotion, transitional to your next positive emotion. In absolute, one does not necessarily serve another because there is no discrimination, but it helps us as human beings, because our mind is very conceptual. It just helps to have a little bit more acceptance, a little bit more tolerance to our negative emotion if we see them as transition to the positive. What I mean by that is very simple. There is a peaks and valley in our life and our emotional world, right? And there is always change, constant change. Nothing is permanent. There is a positive emotion, negative and positive and negative, and negative, negative, positive, 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 negative, positive, 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 negative, negative. Right? Kept playing piano. That's how it felt. So there's always interchange, one emotion another, anger, sadness, guilt, shame, then joy and playfulness and be proud of something, and there's all this emotions, and we recognize emotions through sensations in the body. That's all we know. It's sensation in the body that energy generates within us, and we recognize it as emotions. But certain sensations are not pleasant, like tightness and here in solar plexus over here, right? So we feel it in a way that we know that it's not pleasant emotion, or tightness in the shoulders, like some stress. Right? We know that it's not pleasant altogether. So we categorize it. It's all good, but we fight. We fight everything that is unpleasant. We fight it. We try to squeeze it out of our space, emotional space. And it creates only more perpetual recreation of negativity. Because the resistance that we have, there is the inner war, which is not peace. And peace is what you're striving for. Yes? We all strive for peace. Even though we try to get to the truth of destructive behavior, looking for adrenaline there and there. But at the end of that, we want balance, we want peace. Now we push away everything that feels unpleasant, so we recreate the energy of resistance. So there is another wave of negative energy, and negative emotions will come. And especially when emotion in psychology, we would call it unprocessed emotion. From therapeutic standpoint, we say unprocessed. So they are repressed, they are not realized, they are not manifested, they are not expressed, right? But I would suggest to look at it differently even. Remember when you had your last dip, or any of the dips that you remember. So there is this wave of sadness, usually underneath a wave of anger, because anger is usually easier to digest, right? In anger we have control, we're strong, so the anger is much easier emotion. The sadness is perceived weaker emotion, and in sadness you find often the component of shame and guilt. Oh, those ones, very hard ones, really hard, really heavy on the system, right? So those we push first, sadness second, because in sadness there is this element of melancholy, romanticism. So there's some pleasure in sadness. In shame, there's hardly ever pleasure. I mean, some people can find pleasure in everything. But shame and guilt are heavy on the system. There's a bit more pleasure in the sadness. For some, there's a lot of pleasure in anger because ego reinforces itself and it's strong and it's control. There's a sense of control and a sense of righteousness, right? To whatever degree you consider one emotion pleasant or unpleasant, that doesn't matter. But let's imagine that you had that dip. Let's remember, right? You had that dip. And remember the period where you're so tired to resist it, because naturally you do resist it, try to escape, try to distract yourself with something just not to feel it because it's overwhelming. Now, remember the moment when you're tired to resist, and then you experienced at least a glimpse of it, maybe not all of it that you had in you, but some of it, and something settled in. Remember that? Something just settled, and out of it, something emerged, some expression of creativity, or some inspiration, or some realization that required you to take some action. And that small action became a connection to something important, some important project, or something like that. Maybe a book came out of you, or the painting, sculpture, or beautiful, deep, profound love making like never before, or right. So that's in this deep experience of unpleasant emotion and surrender to this unpleasant emotion, there's something new presented itself as your experience that otherwise wouldn't be in that space. And this experience led to some other unfolding. Something unfolded, something new, and one led to another. And here, completely new branch of the tree of experiences was there as a result of it. And if your negative emotions wouldn't be experienced, then something else in the playground of experience in your field would not be manifested as new experience that was awesome, that led you to this great project, financial project, creative project, a new relationship, new that or another, but something new that would never happen if you would be always on surface of pleasure. Can you understand it? Not through hearing my words, but through recollecting it. Just go back replay it. And how it will serve you is that next dip that occurs, maybe you will fight a little less. And you accelerate the process of creation that happened as a result of this huge dive into darkness of darkness of the emotion, the deep. So that's my invitation for today. Experience emotions, don't discriminate them. And remember, whatever you experience now, if you're going through a rough time, whatever it might look like, but it's emotions, usually imagined emotions, and emotions are a result of thoughts, some drama occurs in your imaginary world, some stories. But the emotions that you sense in the body, you recognize it and it feels unpleasant. If you're going through it now, or you'll go through it tomorrow, or your loved one going through it, just remind them. Look at that as transition to your next positive emotion. And instead of running from it, sit and experience it. You don't have to sit, you can do whatever you want. But I mean, don't get to distraction. Don't distract yourself, don't escape. Go deep into it. Allow it to fully sink and deliver some message. What does that universe in you want from this manifestation of yourself? Embodied manifestation. What does it want? What kind of movement it's looking? How does it want to be expressed in something tangible and creative and beautiful? What action does it want you to take, but not as escape, but as an inner resolve? So that's my invitation for you for today. And with that, I'm sending you a lot of love. So much love. Till next time.